Hey everybody, Michelle here in Northern Illinois. Today is Clean Up the Hot Mess Bed Day. And today we're going to be working on this bed that is in the front of my house. And at one time it was a really great bed, but then it kind of was really super happy. It got overgrown and too much is in here. And you know what? I'm just like you guys. Sometimes I plant something and it works, and sometimes I plant things and it doesn't work. I had someone make a comment a couple weeks ago that was like, I can't believe that you didn't know what was going to happen. You own a garden center. Well, just because I own a garden center and because I'm a gardener, just like you, things happen. Mother Nature does what she wants to do. Sometimes plants get bigger than the tags say. Sometimes you put a combination together and you think it's going to look good and it doesn't. And in my case with this garden, everything didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I don't look at that as a fail. I look at that as an opportunity to do something different and to make it better. I want this garden to be a little bit lower maintenance, and I want to be able to use the path that goes through it. So therefore I need to clear some of the perennials out of here. I'm going to leave all the shrubs and the structure that I have, and we're going to make it more functional and more beautiful. Seems a little overwhelming. This bed is a hot mess and I have to clean it up because it's not functional right now. And I look around and I'm just like, oh, where to start? And you might have a bed like that too, where you're looking around and you're just like, oh, I don't even know where to start. But for me, the first step is going to be to cut it all back. Then I can kind of see what I'm working with, and then I can lift everything up that I want to move, dispose of what I want to dispose, move other things into areas where maybe they're going to fit better. Then I can widen the pathway and then decide where I want to put everything. So for me, I'm a very visual person. I kind of have to move cut everything back first so that I can decide how I want it to look. Now, just a little background on this area. This was the first garden that I put in back, 6 years ago when we first moved in, because I have a covered porch and I like to sit on the covered porch, and the garden was an area for me to just have peace at the end of the day and to have rest. And this is a clay soil property. And so I'd never really grown in heavy clay soil. I was like really super fortunate at my other house in that we had this really good dirt, so I could pretty much grow anything I wanted. Here, I had to do a little bit of research on what I thought would do well in the clay soil. And what's amazing is if you plant the right things in clay soil, they do fabulous. And some of them actually do more than fabulous. I had plants that got bigger than the tag said, or I thought they would get. So I ended up about 3 years in having to pull some things up and move them or take them out because they were like bullies taking over the garden and they were just way too big. So then I did the thing that I tell everyone not to do, and I started like buying things and plopping them in the ground. And some of the weeds got a little bit away from me, and I thought that I wanted to grow some milkweed in here, and the next thing you know, that was taking over. My black-eyed Susans were too close to the path. They overflowed onto the path. I've actually dug them up 3 times, and I've left little pieces every time, and then they just come back, and they really like clay soil, so they have overgrown the area. The coreopsis have really spread that I put in, so there's a lot more of this than the 3 little plants that I put in, so I'll be moving those as well. There are things in the garden that I love that I'm going to keep. Almost all of the shrubs are going to stay in place. I think that the bones of that is great. I think it's all the perennials that I put in, and then I've been filling in annuals here and there too just to give me color. But I think I need to take it back to the basics, get it to the bones of the bushes, kind of take a minute and look at it, and then figure out what I want to do. So no matter what I get done this year, I am going to get it cleared out and get the path wider. And even if I don't plant anything until spring, I'm at least going to get it that far this year. So where to start? Well, I'm going to get my clippers out and I'm going to start cutting things back. All right, I'm going to get a good look at this hot mess so I can remember what it looked like. And so at the end, I can look at this and go, oh my gosh, it looks so much better. Because, you need that when you're working on a project like this. You need to go, whew, I'm really glad I spent the time doing that. See, and as I walk through the garden and through the path, when I'm done, this path will be twice as wide. Oh, let me just plow my way through there. And I'll be able to see the path, use the path, but a lot of this is going to go. And I'm going to pull all the thistle too, and I'll just have to keep up on that next year so it doesn't get out of control. This year, I didn't do a great job doing the weeding in here because I knew that I was going to revamp this bed. All right, that's the last look at the hot mess. All right, what tools am I going to use? Well, I do have to use bags here, okay, because I can't burn on my property. So I have to use the bags. And I know for a lot of people, this is what you have to use too. And I have one of the leaf and lawn shoots that I put down in here. And I like this combination because it works good for me. All right. I have a rake. I have a leaf rake. I like the metal ones. This way I can rake up my debris as I'm going. I have my king spade. Okay, that's nice and sharp, ready to go. This way, when it's time for me to dig some stuff up, I can do that very easily. I am going to be using a pair of shears to cut back a lot of my stuff. And I'm not going to use hedge clippers. One, my hedge clippers are in the shop getting fixed. And two, I kind of want to see the individual plants and stuff, and I don't want to rip them all up. So I'm going to kind of cut and throw them into the bag or bucket and then into my paper bag chute when I'm done. I do have a wheelbarrow and I have a pair of gloves. Oh, I also have my Falcos and, yep, the most important thing, I have my headband. Here we go. It's going to be hot and I'm a sweater. So, oh, I've had 2 cups of coffee. Ha ha ha, let's do this. Hot. The other thing I like to do whenever I'm doing a job that's kind of this big, I break it down into visual chunks, because otherwise sometimes it can be debilitating and you won't even start. And so I'm kind of like, okay, I'm going to get all the coreopsis cut back and in the bag, and then I'm going to take a break. Because you know what? It's hot out, or maybe that's all you can handle, and that's okay. Then I'm going to wait a couple hours, and then I'm going to go up, you know what, I'm going to get all the black-eyed Susans. So then I'm going to go out and I'm going to cut all the black-eyed Susans. Then I'm going to come out and I'm going to go, all right, you know what, let's get the daisies. So I'm going to get the daisies. Then my next step might be, let's pull out all the annuals that are in the middle. I'm actually going to leave those cleomes because they look really good. And then, you know what, now it's not so overwhelming because I kind of chunked it down. And even if you chunk that down into 4 or 5 days, instead of like over the period of a day in little sections, it's still not as overwhelming as looking at the whole thing and going, oh my God, there's so much to do. And how am I ever going to tackle this? Because then you're kind of like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'll wait. And then you never get it done. So for me, mentally, that's what works for me. Maybe that'll work for you. Okay, so I got the coneflowers, the black-eyed Susans, all the coreopsis, the daisies. There was a little patch of asters behind the tree. I have cleared all of that out. And as you can see here, I still have milkweed. And the milkweed, yeah, I thought it would be cool to have in here, but it's actually flopping over and it's spreading where I don't want it. And even though I love to have the butterflies, I have a big field in the back where there's tons of it. So I have no worries that the butterflies, the monarchs, will have a place to lay their eggs. So all cleared, I can actually walk down the path. That's one potato vine. Look at that. That was the green with envy. So it's actually the next day. It's the end of the day. I just got home from work, and so I'm going to work on this for 20 minutes. That's it. That's all the time I got. The mosquitoes will start to come out in like 20 minutes, and I have dinner in the oven. And so I'm just going to power through 20 minutes, and I've decided I'm going to get the coleus pulled out and I'm going to get this milkweed out. And I have a little volunteer bush that's growing in my woodgelia right here. So that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to get it done, knocked out, and then I'll have one more part that I can go check, done, and then tomorrow we'll work on a little bit more. So I don't think I can pull the milkweed. I actually think I have to get my shovel to dig out the roots, but what I am doing is cutting off the top part of the stalk so I can get these pods. I do not want these pods to go all over, so I'm doing that first. So these really woody big ones, I'm gonna have to dig them out. Ooh, look at this big batch of porcelain I just pulled out, and don't tell me to eat it because I'm not eating it. It's a weed, but look at that, it was big. All right, so yeah, this bad, Michelle. So this is a little tree that was growing in the middle of my woodgelia. I'm probably going to have to pull the woodgelia out. Not only was this volunteer tree growing in the middle of it, but I have milkweed growing up through it as well. And just pulling it, I'm just snapping that root, and I know it's still in there, and I'm going to be battling that in the bush all year, next year, and probably forever. Sometimes you have to call it a loss and you have to dig something out and get rid of it because there's no way you're getting the weed stock out of the good root stock that's part of your perennial or your shrub. And instead of battling it forever, I'm just going to probably end up pulling it out and getting a new one. I know I hate pulling plants out, but sometimes that is the solution. One. There's one, there's one. Sometimes I'll get a big weed like I have right there. And what I did was I just cut the flowers off of it so that it doesn't send seed all over. And then I'll come over and I'll dig out as much as I can to see if I can get the taproot. That's like a big thistle. So I'm going to get this big hosta over here next. I will spend my last, 30 seconds, 1 minute, time me. All right, 22 seconds. Actually, I was talking for part of it, so it was probably like 18 seconds. I will set my next bag up so that it's ready to go. I will leave it sitting right out here because we don't have any rain coming. That way tomorrow, if I have just a minute, I can get a little bit more done. So my 20 minutes was well worth it. Got the whole back area cleared. The hostas are gone. All that's left is my boxwood. I do have a mint right here. And then this is my bird's nest spruce. I have another bird's nest spruce, and you can see the remains of my hostas. Any big weeds I left above ground so that I can dig them up. So I haven't done any shovel work yet, okay? I'm just doing cutting back at this point. I did cut back all of the milkweed. I do have the big sticks that I have to dig out. And I'm not looking forward to all the sedum, but I am gonna have to get all this sedum out of here. And I am probably going to dig up this woodgelia, and I'm probably gonna lose it. And that's too bad because I do like it. Okay, but as you can see, I have done all of this in, let's see, I spent 90 minutes out here my first time, and I just spent 20 minutes. So I'm moving along pretty quickly. I'm just breaking it down into manageable chunks so that it's easier for me to visualize getting it all done. All right, it's another new day, and we are to the point now where I'm ready to like dig some stuff up and move it. It's been getting a little bit colder at night, but the ground is still warm, so everything should be totally fine transplanted. One of the things that I will be doing though is I am gonna dump some compost in the areas where I'm gonna transplant. One, to elevate the soil a little bit to create better drainage, but also because the whole area where I'm going to kind of put these is clay. Now, I don't know that these are going to stay there. That's not their permanent home. It's just kind of a resting area to get them through winter. And then I'll decide in the spring how I'm going to rearrange everything. Again, my goal this year is just to really clear out everything that I don't want in there and make the path wider so that I can kind of think on it all winter long and decide how I want it to look next year. So let's get to digging. So one of the main things that I want to accomplish is I do want to make my path wider. So I have lined the path with these little boulders, and what I'm doing right now is I'm gonna pop them all out, and then we're gonna go through and we're gonna dig a lot of this sedum out. I might keep some of it, but most of it's probably gonna be disposed of. It's really shallow rooted. It's easy to get rid of. And then we'll re-put the rocks down, all the way down, make the path wider, and then I'm going to take pea gravel and the rock that's here, blend it together, and then I'll take the flagstone, run it down the middle, but then I'll have a path that is, see, as wide as my 2 rocks right here, and I'll be ready to go. I am going to take the coreopsis though and the daisies, and we're going to dig them out and we're going to put them in a temporary holding bed because I want to keep those. All right, as you can see, we popped out all of the rocks. Okay, I'll have to like rake back all of this mulch here. We'll rake that back until we get to dirt because we are going to put fabric down underneath the rock area where the path is because I don't want weeds coming up. Now, one of the things that I'm doing is I am pulling these rocks up on the other side as well so that I can tuck new fabric underneath the rock because I don't want weeds to come through this. So I'm going to do a double layer. So I'm going to actually have another one, see, because I want the path to go over here to make it wider. So I will lay another row of fabric down as well and have it kind of overlap, probably halfway. And then we're going to dump the pea gravel on it. Now I'm going to take the little rocks and I'm going to put them right on top of the fabric because I want it to be on the fabric and not have weeds. So now we're just going to line the whole other side of the path with the rocks, make little curves in them, and it'll be fun. Okay, so there you go. We have it nice and wide. And we got the little curve in there. We just had the flagstone kind of stacked along the side. We did get the rest of the black-eyed Susans and the coneflowers dug out. And everything that I wanted to keep, we created a temporary holding bed over here, and then we just backfilled it with compost. Instead of trying to dig into the ground, we're just like hilling them in, so to speak, so that they'll get through the winter, and then next year we'll move them where we want. Now what they're going to do is they're going to go get some pea gravel, and we're going to totally fill this up with pea gravel, and then we're going to take our flagstone and we're just going to make a center walkway down the center. I'm going to leave the sides exposed and not put a bunch of flagstone on there because just like I dropped the low pots on the side of the house, aren't those awesome? I'm going to do the exact same thing down the walkway. So visualize this with the low bowls down the walkway. That will be so cool. It'll be easy to change out the colors every year, easy to maintain, easy to dig out at the end of the year and throw it away. Oh, I think that's going to be fabulous. And then I can just anchor a few more things in the actual dirt part, which is clay, and figure out how I want the rest of it to look and keep it as low maintenance as I can, because I got to start lightening the load. Okay, so the guys went to go get the pea gravel. I feel like I can breathe now and look at this space and not look at it and cringe every time I look at it. So I love that we've cleared so many things out, and I have all winter to think about what I want this to look like come spring into summer. I do know that no matter what it is that I put in here, I'm going to keep it as low maintenance as I can, because I'm creating more and more beds. And I know that for me, I don't know that I'll ever stop creating beds or ever stop gardening, but I have to maybe lighten the load a little bit. What if I don't have these guys later down the road to help me do projects like this? I have to be able to do this stuff myself as I get older. And so I got to make it easier. So before, the path was like 3 feet wide from like the outside edge of the boulder to the outside edge of the boulder. Now I've got this great path that's 4 feet wide, and that's the inside measure of the boulders. So now I'm not going to have to worry about things spilling over into the pathway and me not being able to navigate through it. One, I'm not going to plant anything that big next to the pathway this time. I'm going to make sure that I plant it far enough back. And two, I still have the sedum that's in here. And even though we thinned a lot of it out, we scraped some of it out, all you really need are little pieces to fall on the ground, and it will propagate and regrow all over the place. The biggest thing I have to do is just make sure I thin it out every year. That was my mistake this year, is I've thinned it out every year and it's always been under control. This year I didn't do that, and boy, did those patches like really get bigger than I wanted them to. So I just have to make sure that I do that every year in the fall when I'm cleaning up to keep it where I want it. The other thing you want to do before you put your rock down when you're doing this is take a blower and blow off any dirt that you got on the fabric, because that dirt probably has weed seed in it and you don't want to have that in your path. That's the whole reason you put the fabric down. So make sure you get that dirt off of there. All right, we are going to take, and we took our shovel and we're tapping the edge of the fabric into the ground so that it's not peeking out, but that way it's still there. So you can do that with a shovel. It works really well. Let's put that piece there. All right, so when I was spreading the pea gravel, I was using this two-sided rake. And so this is a grading rake that we like to use. It's really good because you can break up clumps with this. You can pull and drag different depths of material with this. So we like to use the two-sided tine hard rake. I don't know what the official name is. I just look for these rakes, and these are the ones that we buy because we like them. The other thing that I'm going to do at the very end is I am going to go through, and I had the guys lift up the pieces just a little bit, and I might regret this and end up putting them back down level again, but for now I hate having to sweep all the pea gravel off of all the flagstone all the time. So I'm lifting them up just a little bit. They're all still the same height, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through with a push broom, and yeah, you like our push broom? We've got it all taped together, but it's the one that I found over in the garage, and I'm just going to sweep down it. And what it does is it gives you this nice smooth level gravel, and it fills in all your holes for you, and then it also leaves it so if you have a divot, you can see where you need to put more gravel. So it works really good to do like your final finish. So I can see where I need gravel. I need some here. I need a little here. So you know how when you rip things apart, you have one idea in your head of what it is that you want to do. And then as you start to pull things apart, different things happen and you start thinking of different things you want to do. That's what happens to me all the time when I'm landscaping. So one of the things that I had done was I had taken all the sod out of this center piece right here, and it was going to be the garden that connected the garden that we've been working on, the hot mess that we've just turned into this beautiful, not hot mess, even though it's not done, it still looks wow, way better than it did, to the cottage garden that we did earlier in the summer. And so one of the things is I have a change in elevation from this upper bed to the lower bed. Originally I had brought the boulders in, I made the pathways, I wasn't in love with it, so what I did was I ended up pulling just the inside line of all the boulders and moving it in a pile next to the house, and they can sit there all winter, it's okay. Well, when I dug up the perennials that I wanted to keep, I made a temporary holding bed, and instead of digging like down into the ground, what I did was, I don't want to drag my tiller out and break the hard pan, I just ended up bringing some compost over, putting them there, and then I hilled them in. So I kind of just did this right here, where I just backfilled all of it with compost, but then the rest of the compost that I had in the truck, I was like, well, I'm not wasting that. So we're going to dump it along this ridge right here. And then I'm like, you know what? I probably should make a little stacked stone wall right here, or a little wall, something, whether it's boulders, stacked stone, or even, you know, paver stones. I need to make a little bitty wall right there because of the change in elevation. Then I can backfill it with some really great compost, and I can plant things other than things that will only grow in clay, and then it'll give me like this tiered 2-layer look. And now I'm thinking I want to do that. So it might change by spring, but now I'm thinking that's what I want to do in the spring, and maybe change the path so that this part of it just goes straight through, and then I'll have that little wall right there. So I don't know, it might change, but that's what I was thinking. As I dropped the compost, it was kind of like ding, a little light went off, and I went, you know what, maybe I should be doing that instead. But I'm going to live with this all winter before I make any decisions in the spring as to what I'm going to do in this garden to connect the two together. Oh, I still have to pull out the cleomes over here, but they look good, and I'm not pulling them out until I have to. Look at that, you guys. Isn't that awesome? Oh my gosh, I can breathe. So I left the hostas over here, and I left my 3 boxwoods. These are winter gems. I have one there, and one there. And then if you go down the driveway, that's where the quick fire hydrangeas are. Those are actually little quick fires. And then we've got our weepy Norway spruce, the limelight hydrangea. And then right over here, we have a white pine, and I left the sedum right there. And I did dig out all of the black-eyed Susans, all of the coneflowers, the yarrow, and I moved it to a holding bin. I dug all of the daisies out and I moved those. And then I dug out some of the coreopsis that was all through here. And those are over there as well. We did pull out a lot of the sedum, but you can see, you know, it's still there, okay? But it's just thinner. And then here's my holding bed over here. So here's my holding bed. I ended up moving 3 white shepherd daylilies in here. I moved some purple coneflowers, the white daisies, and 2 hostas, the yarrow. Oh, I did end up moving some Adam's needle too, some yuccas. So that'll all just stay in here for the winter. So I didn't. Alex, I told him to cut a dead branch off. He misunderstood me, and he ended up cutting back my whole sanctuary. So I was like, oh, well, good thing they can take rejuvenation prunes. So hopefully we didn't just kill the sanctuary, and it will come back. I don't know, but we're going to leave it and see if it comes back. And if he totally killed it, well, I guess I'll just plant another one. I did leave the peony, which is right here, and the daylilies were right along this edge here, and that's where I pulled them out from. But look at this path, you guys. Isn't it awesome? Oh, I love it. Look at how open this is. Check it out. It is so beautiful, and it's wide, and it's nice, and I love it. Oh, and now I can plan what I want to do in this space and keep it simple and easy and create that beautiful bridge over to the cottage garden. And I don't think I showed you this, but as I got to the end, I did have to create a little step down right here. I have to step down because of the change in elevation. See, and then the path is going to come around like this and then go over to the cottage garden. And this is where I think I want to make that little stacked stone wall, because I don't know if you can really see it in the video, but it is higher elevation here than it is over here. Yay! Okay, there you go, you guys. One hot mess rejuvenated into something that's going to be absolutely beautiful and easy to maintain. And if you have a hot mess, remember, you can break it down into smaller chunks. That way, it's mentally, I think, easier for you to tackle the project. I'm Michelle. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you like our transformation, and I can't wait to add some things to it next spring. See you in the next video, you guys. Keep on gardening. Bye now.